Welcome to Manga Machinations! This is episode number 461, and this week we're doing a Twipple Dip. I'm Dakazu, and with me is Darfox8.
Hello, everybody.
Seamus2389.
Oh.
And our returning fourth chair, Morgana Santilli!
Hello, everybody. I missed you.
Morgana is back. I'm so excited. Also, I had a Red Bull, and it's kicking in right now. I can feel it. Yeah, welcome back, Morgana.
Thank you. If I had a Red Bull right now, I would not sleep until my son woke me up again at 4 a.m.
Yes, your new baby, Aubrey.
And he is also here podcasting with us right now.
And we might hear him. Exciting.
Maybe. He's half passed out and milk drunk, so
Hell yeah.
he may just fall asleep.
That's how you gotta be when you're a newborn baby. Yeah, we're super excited that Morgana is back. I feel like this maternity leave was shorter than the last one.
I think I took 2 months last time off the podcast.
Maybe that was the case. I remember, like, the first time, too, I was like, that's kind of early. Is Morgana sure she wants to come back?
Yeah, because my maternity leave from work is 3 months. It's 12 weeks. But yeah, I was like, I need to start podcasting slowly again before I start putting like full-time work back onto my plate and do crazy little kids who need my attention.
Oh, I heard the baby.
Yeah.
So cute. Yeah, so Morgana is back. We have the full crew together. I think last time when you came back from maternity break, I made a joke about saving us from the shit show, but this time I think we did a good job. We held down the fort while you were gone.
Yeah, and I was telling you before we started recording, I fully intended on reading along with you guys and listening to the podcast that you recorded while I was gone, and I absolutely did not do that. So my apologies, and I'm gonna miss out on all the in-jokes for a little while until I figure out how to catch up. I'm very curious about Fire Punch. I know you guys did all of that without me, and I want to read it because I enjoyed Chainsaw Man, and I am also like really hesitant to read it because it sounds nuts.
I feel we talked about this last episode when we finished it, but we'll probably do a retrospective redux, so we can reread it together and do an episode on it.
One day.
Yeah, give it a break for a bit, but I mean we're still talking about Tatsuki Fujimoto this week because in our main segment we're reading the next volume of Chainsaw Man. We're also going back to Die Dark from Q Hayashida and some more Yokohama Kaidashi Kikō as well. Specifically, you messaged us, Morgana. You're like, the new volume of Yokohama's out. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, I was trying to figure out like what could we do, and I was looking at Kindle, and it was like new books out, and I was like, oh, this one came out. I feel like Volume 3 came out a lot faster than Volume 2. Like Volume 2 took
I agree.
forever.
Yeah. Yeah, excited to talk about all three of those books in our main segment. And yeah, Morgana. I was going to ask for an update from Morgana, but she already gave it. So let's talk a little about our coffee page. Darfox wants me to promote the coffee page at the beginning of all the episodes now, Morgana.
I think that's smart.
That's right.
Give us the money, guys. I've got babies to feed.
Listen, we got some money this week.
Ooh.
We got money from Christine, or Xtine, here on our splash page. She went over to ko-fi.com/mangamac, and she bought us some coffee. And that was really nice of her.
Very nice, yes. Very generous.
We've been playing Mahjong with Christine, Morgana. She joins us on our Mahjong Machination Mondays.
Another thing I had intended to do on leave and have not done yet.
Well, you have your chance this Monday.
All right, I will keep that in mind.
Christine Christine wants to see Manga Machinations game because, like, when you play Riichi Mahjong, there's 4 seats, so all 4 of us here can play, and Seamus knows how to play now. So
This is like the plot of a manga, y'all.
I was saying this is gonna be our 500 episode. We're not gonna talk about manga. We're just gonna play mahjong.
Oh yeah, I do that. When is 500?
500's coming up. We're on 461 right now, so
Okay, so we have
probably
a while still.
maybe I'm gonna say Marchish.
All right, I'm ready. I'm down.
I
I'm
got
gonna practice.
I got until then to actually learn how to play this game.
Listen, Darfox knows how to play, but is constantly just talking about, oh, we're getting sexy. This is getting sexy.
No.
I'm just like, what?
You're misrepresenting. You're misrepresenting. All right, hold on. You need to see my face during this to see that I'm not lying.
Wait, before you take down the...
Little doctor, what have you done?
I was choking on my drink. I wanted to thank all the people who donated the coffee.
Okay.
Because you added Christine, and then you also added your friend. But yes. Thank you. That was it. You don't... Yeah. So, yeah. Deluid, Vicky Dalton, Mia, Dr. Melface, Wyatt, Cormexon72, Philip, Liquidus002, and Xteen. So, thank you so much. All right, defend your sexy talk, Darfox.
No,
mahjong.
You don't understand. So, like, mahjong. I'm not going to explain the rules, but basically, you're collecting tiles and you're making different patterns and formations of tiles. And there's baseline patterns, which are pairs and sequences. A sequence could be like 1, 2, 3, or 3 3s, or something like that, right? So whenever I have a tile that pairs with another tile, because they're a double or they're part of a sequence, I say, oh, I could do sexy time with these. Not just blanket sexy times. That doesn't make any sense. But what does make sense is that this specific tile might be meant for another tile. Not definitely, but it might be meant for another tile. And that's what the sexy time thing is. What's another rule of mahjong? I'm blanking now. Anyways,
the
just
Ricci are picking discards. What?
No, I'm talking about like Darfox rules, like sexy time. So basically, if you really want to know what's up, you gotta go to a Discord and ask to be included in the mahjong. It's really like low stakes. Obviously, we're not betting.
It's low key. No,
yeah,
we're just joking around and having fun.
Yeah, there's a couple of people on there that are really good. Like Christine's really good because Christine is actually part of like leagues IRL with like mahjong tiles and stuff.
She designed her like New York club's like logo. It's a cute rat.
Yeah, I think it's a play on the pizza rat that was a meme a couple years ago. That rat in the subway that was dragging the pizza slice. But this one is holding like the bet. The bet tile. I don't know what it's called, but when you make a bet, you put a stick
it's
down.
the 1,000-point bar. Yeah.
So it's really cute. It's on the Discord if y'all want to go see it. But as I was saying, Christine is really good, but we're really having fun, and I'm not very good at all. And like there's just a wide variety of like skill bases, so we're just kind of like shooting the shit and playing mahjong. And occasionally get really lucky and get like a really good hand, and it's pretty exciting, you know. But I people compare it to poker a lot because you know, in poker you get hands and stuff like that. It's a lot easier than poker because it's a lot easier to just focus. Because in poker kind of forces you to read the other players in the room, if you want to play it right. And I guess you kind of, if you really want to play it right in mahjong, you are reading your other players. But it's a lot easier at the start to just focus on what you're doing, right? It feels like a lot more insular in a way, like almost like you can almost play the game just worrying about your own stuff and not so much what other people happen.
Morgana, we're gonna teach you.
I've played.
You have played? You know how to play Ricci mahjong?
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've played, but I do know how. I did know how once.
Morgana, you gotta join us on Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll just throw you in a game.
I can do that.
Get you done in 40 minutes.
And if anybody does show up and they kind of don't want to play, but they want to see what it's like, you could just watch, because we usually, at least one of us streams our games, so you can watch what we're doing at that time. So it says, you know, as low confrontation as possible, really.
Yep. I think I need to mess with some Discord settings to make that happen, so people can watch. Like, let's see. Besides Mahjong, wait, I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. We'll just move along. We're gonna skip email this week. We want to have more time for our main segment. So let's move along to some what you been reading. So I feel like we gotta throw to Morgana because Morgana has been out. Morgana, have you read anything?
I have. I have not read as much as I hoped, because I never read as much as I hope I'm going to.
But
I
yeah,
have read a
you were
few
busy.
things.
You're busy.
Yeah, recovering from childbirth, sustaining a human life. I mean, what's small fry. Let me see. Yeah, I did read a few things. I've read a lot of random dumb BL that I borrowed from the library. So if you guys want some dumb BL, go look at your local library's ebook collection. But yeah, there are two comics I want to mention. They're not manga, sorry guys. But I did want to mention them. I read Chivalry, which is a Neil Gaiman story that was adapted into a graphic novel by Colleen Doran. And I told you guys about Snow Glass Apples, which was another Neil Gaiman story that was adapted by Colleen Doran, that I loved. And I read Chivalry as well. And I knew the story from reading the short story in one of his collections a while ago. And I hadn't read it in a long time. So I borrowed the ebook again from the library and I read it. And it's just astounding. Colleen's an incredible artist. She's like she adapts her style to the story. She has like a plan for she used a very specific, like she used the Irish arts and crafts movement as like part of her inspiration for the artwork in this particular book. It's just like, she does like extensive research. She said, in the back matter, she was talking about how this was like one of her favorite stories, and she loves like it's a story about an older woman goes to a charity shop and purchases the Holy Grail. And
what?
She buys the Holy Grail at a charity shop. It takes place in England, of course. And she is approached by Sir Galahad. He comes and is like, Mistress, you have the Holy Grail, and I've come as a knight of the Round Table to offer you like all these gifts in exchange for the Grail. And this is like modern day England that we're talking about, but he's coming from Arthurian times, and it's just a wonderful story. A very like Neil Gaiman's really good at those like this is clearly a modern myth sort of thing. Like my husband and I were talking about it recently because we watched the second season of Good Omens. Which was excellent, by the way, and entirely pandering fan service, and I don't even care.
I have that page up, by the way. Sir Galahad shows up.
Yeah. Just Terry Pratchett, who co-wrote Good Omens, is really, really good at characters, and I feel like Neil Gaiman is really, really good at these like character types or like kind of. He's really good at myths and legends type of characterization. So not really deep characters, but more like characters that fall into like a. I don't want like this sounds like criticism, but it's more like he uses this formula that is like so much part of like epic storytelling or mythology, and so Chivalry is very much like that. So yeah, I really loved Chivalry. I mean, you can see Colleen's gorgeous artwork. And what's incredible to me is that her art looks different in different adaptations. So she did Snow Glass Apples, and the artwork in that looked entirely different. She's also adapted Good Omens into a graphic novel, which they have a Kickstarter for, and I definitely backed that and waiting eagerly to get that graphic novel as well, because Good Omens is my favorite book ever. So yeah, so that was one thing I read. I really really recommend. And I wanted to mention. And then just last night or the other night, I read. Do you guys remember? This was a couple years ago, I think. I mentioned reading a biography of Rod Serling of the Twilight Zone.
I remember
this. Mm-hmm.
So Corin Shadmi, who did that, has done another biography on Bela Lugosi, and I read that the other night, and it was also equally incredible about Bela Lugosi's life before Dracula, and kind of what happened to him afterward, and it's very sad, actually. Unfortunately, Bela Lugosi was not a very shrewd businessman, and kind of he had to settle a lot for parts, especially after Dracula, which is really a shame because he was an excellent actor and he really made. I mean, his Dracula is kind of what we think of, right, when we think of Dracula, and I knew some of this information already. There's a podcast called You Must Remember This, which is all like Hollywood history. And she did a few episodes. One was like Bela Lugosi, and one was oh my god, my brain just died. Frankenstein.
The movie? From the movie?
Yes. Oh my god. This is what happens when you have a baby, by the way. You actually like lose brain cells. Oh my god. You guys, I'm dying.
The actor who played like the classic Frankenstein?
Yes.
Was it Boris Karloff?
Yes, thank you, Jesus Christ. Boris Karloff. I know this guy. I love this guy. Why can't I remember his name?
It's a very distinct name. Yeah, I can see why that'd be like right there in your brain, right out of reach.
Yes. Again, don't have kids. It messes you up. But yeah, so You Must Remember This had had episodes on Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi, and kind of they were very similar in terms of what their, they kind of defined these characters, and their career trajectories were entirely opposite. And like half the reason I assume is because Bela Lugosi was kind of treated like racially inferior because he was Hungarian and he had an accent and he didn't look, Boris Karloff was British, white British, has a great speaking voice, narrated the Grinch, the classic Grinch film, cartoon. So they had just very, very different careers, and it was a big, Lugosi ended up addicted to painkillers, addicted to, and also into alcohol, and like he was married 5 times and divorced 4, and just had was bad with money, like one thing after the other. Had a really really sad life, unfortunately. But the thing that Corin Shadmi is really good at, and he did this with Rod Serling, Twilight Man as well, is being sympathetic toward the subject of his biography without being unrealistic about who they were as a person. Like, both Rod Serling and Bela Lugosi were not perfect people. I think they both cheated on wives. They both did things that were regrettable. But you still kind of see the full picture. They're not just somebody who did bad things. They are also somebody who did really important things. And I feel like that's really important. It kind of puts into perspective. I don't want to entirely dismiss this culture we have now of calling people out when they do something wrong, problematic. I think that's very valuable, but I also think it's very important to understand that people are multifaceted and none of us is perfect. And we all do regrettable things or bad things sometimes, things we wish we hadn't done. So, and especially for people in Hollywood like Serling and Lugosi, like the bad things they did are so minor in the large scale, the grand scale of things. That doesn't make it right. and it's not something that I approve of, but it's also really like, I don't know, it makes them human, right? And so that's like a big part of what I enjoy about Shadmi's biographies. The artwork is also really good. He's really excellent at making. I mean, you see the people he's writing about so well, and like I could hear Bela Lugosi. I've only seen Bela Lugosi in Dracula. I've never seen any of the other stuff he's done, and yet like I felt like I could hear him and feel him talking and moving in this biography. So Dakuzu, this is the kind of stuff that I feel like in Western comics you might like.
No,
More
I would
so
love
than-
this.
Yeah, it is pretty wordy because it is like a biography, but it's excellent. It's really really fun, and I learned something too. So in Hungary, before World War II, there was a brief time where Hungary had like a communist government. And in
Okay.
that time, sorry, I had to shift the baby. And in that time, they actually created a United Artists, like Actors Guild in Hungary, and it was the first actors union in the world, which I did not know. And this is I want to say the 1920s. The first actors union in the world, and unfortunately the government was overthrown not too long after that, and the union was split up, but Bela Lugosi was very very much involved in that. And it's really interesting because in Hollywood many years later, Boris Karloff was a founding member of United Artists, which was the first actors union in Hollywood. So yeah, Bela Lugosi was very much into like unions and like labor laws while he was young and broke in Hungary. But then he very quickly, when he rose to success as Dracula, kind of got a taste for the finer things and blew through his cash really fast, unfortunately, and then ended up taking any role that was given to him. Did you know he only got paid $500 a week for Dracula? Like
Jesus.
even adjusting for inflation, that's not enough. And he continued to get like paid crap, even compared to like he was in a film with Boris Karloff, and he got only $500 a week at that point. Sorry, the baby's crying.
I love it. More baby on podcast.
He's cranky because he didn't nap well today. I mean, big mood, right?
I'm cranky because I napped too well today. It gave me like a headache.
Yeah, I get that. But yeah, those are the two big things I wanted to mention. Otherwise, I've read a lot of murder mysteries, like novels, which has been great. I usually don't have a lot of time to read novels, so.
All right, very nice, Morgana. Let's turn to Seamus. Did you read anything this week?
Nope.
You want to talk about? Wait, no? Wait, I literally didn't hear that. I'm sorry.
No.
Okay.
You were hearing like the post or like we're hearing like the intent, but not the word.
Okay, let's go to Dar.
This is always a game I have to play. Did I watch something since the last time? I definitely didn't read anything.
I mean, we watched more Three Kingdoms.
We did, and we watched some amazing Three Kingdoms stuff. Oh my god. One of the really popular things about Three Kingdoms, or not, I don't know if I should kind of pop it here. Let me pop off this. One of the really, I guess, mimetic aspects of Three Kingdoms is Lu Bu. Lu Bu is a pretty major character early on in the story, at least a part of the stories that we're in. And he's handsome and he's strong. He's a force to be reckoned with. But I didn't know until watching this show that Lubu's like an actual massive dumbass. It's really funny that they just make this character so gullible. He is total main character energy in every aspect except that he's a total fool. Like at this point, it's happened like 3 times where somebody comes up to him and they're like, "Hey, Lubu, why don't you do this thing that goes against all your principles?" And Lubu's like, "How dare you? I will never do this thing that goes against all principles." Whoa, but Lubu, you don't understand. You're actually the greatest of the land. I'm the greatest of the land? Maybe I will do this thing that goes against all my principles. And some person just schemes his way into like making Lubu do all their dirty work, or making Lubu just like eliminate one of their enemies. And this like the last one that we just saw was this minor story arc. Not minor, it lasted 2 episodes in the TV show. I don't know how it was in the book. Where Dongzo, who's one of the villains, he's basically like kind of in charge at this point.
Yes, he is basically like he captured the emperor, forced another emperor out, and made this other prince an emperor, and is controlling him from the shadows. And he's feeding his like followers blood.
He's forcing like all the people in the court and all the like politicians to like drink blood and do all this terrible stuff. I guess to demonstrate their loyalty or something like that.
Yes,
or to impose his like his like authority.
He's a tyrant.
It's like do this shit or you get your head cut off kind of shit. So Dongzo isn't a good person. And Lubu is like his main like warrior. Is like his main general. Didn't start that way but eventually we won't get into that story, but Lubu is like so close to Dongzo that they're considered like father and son basically. One of the people in the court, I forget what his title was. There was something about like the masses, like he's supposed to represent like the people's opinion or some weird shit like that. He's like, we gotta get rid of Dongzo. I have an idea. My beautiful daughter Dou-chan is going to well, basically, I'm gonna set up Lubu with my daughter, and then later I'm gonna set up my daughter with Dongzo, and then they'll like get in a fight of jealousy, and that way we could destroy both of them, or at least one of them. And it fucking works, and it's like the most ridiculous thing ever.
The ultimate honey trap.
Yeah. And the Dou-chan character is really interesting. Dakazu was explaining to me that in the book, it's maybe portrayed more that like she's a co-conspirator. She's working with her dad. In the TV show, it's kind of weird because like she's not her dad's biological daughter. Basically, she was adopted and raised, and because of this, she is so grateful. She is so like indebted to her father that she's like, "Yes, father, I will do this for you." So she's
I will play these fools.
Yeah, so she's very much she's very much using like she's a very like sad, suffering character in the TV show. Like she's put in this situation where she has to like be lusted over these 2 terrible men, and kind of play them off each other. And then after it's all done, the way the story arc ends is that Lubu helps betray Dongzo, and they assassinate Dongzo. They cut off his head and just like fuck him up real bad. Dou-chan like leaves. She just pieces out. And there's this really sad like song and the lyrics were translated for us, where it's like Dou-chan is now part of the wind. She is gone, and she just like goes off into like hiding for all her life, or to like not interfere into history and become obscure. So it's really weird and sad, but the Lubu stuff, the actor that got to play Lubu is like perfect. The like just the subtleties of and by subtleties, I guess I shouldn't call it subtle because it's not very subtle, but like just the way the characters were being portrayed and the way they were acting, the way the father of Dou-chan was scheming and Lubu was just falling hook, line, and sinker for all of this stuff. It was so funny and entertaining.
We were laughing our asses off watching this.
It's a good TV show. It's pretty fun. It's fun to see like again all of, like the mimetic aspects of Three Kingdoms, the stuff that I already knew about, but I had no real detail about. see fleshed out and see what they're actually like. And it makes Lu Bu like one of my favorite characters, but not for good reasons. He's one of my favorite characters because he's such a fool, and it's so funny watching him just fall for all of these traps of like more ambitious or more intelligent people. Yeah, I guess that's how you could describe Lu Bu. Just like he doesn't have, you know, he's actually like in one way he's a really tragic character because like he's too strong to live a life of obscurity, but he's too stupid to actually like have true glory and actually like live a life of where he can be a real leader and a real hero. So he's just trapped in between where everybody knows about him and they're just like using him like a cudgel and just like getting what they want out of him.
Is he a himbo?
Yes, 100%.
Oh, absolutely.
100%. They say among men, Lu Bu, among horses, red hair, which was his horse. It's he has a scream on that TV show, and Darfox added it to our soundboard. So when we're playing Mahjong, we're gonna hear that scream. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be so good.
Yeah, that scream happened in the scene where the guy who was scheming, the politician, finally like tipped Lu Bu over because after Dong Zhou took Do-chan, he was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe this has happened to me. It matters not what you say about me. They could call me old and senile and a fool, but I'm just an old guy. But you, Lu Bu, oh my god, Lu Bu, you're the hero of the land. What would they say about you?" And Lu Bu just goes. He just screams. He just screams because it finally dawns on him that he essentially got cucked by his own dad. It's terrible, and I just couldn't stop laughing at it.
Listen, Darfox would not stop talking. By the way, the father character you keep mentioning is Wang Yun, and you were just like, "This man cooking. This man cooking."
Because the whole time he's doing like that. He's leaning his face forward and looking up his eyes to like his eyebrows, and he's smiling, and like he just has like this crazy grin because he knows that he's laying all the bricks he needs to lay to like basically assassinate Dong Zhou by proxy using Lu Bu to assassinate him. So it's perfect. It's like I have no idea where these characters go. A big part of Three Kingdoms is that like characters that might have been good at one point and end up being villains because it's all about like grabbing power and stuff like that. So I don't know where these characters end up as far as like morality goes, but like it felt like the most righteous like scheme ever because like Dong Zhou had to go. The Dong Zhou was a trash person.
He was a villain. Yeah, he was a villain.
He had to go. The method which they made him go. But like the extra fun part about this is that like we didn't mention this, but like right before this mini story arc, there was another story arc where there was a coalition of 13 armies that tried to take Dong Zhou down. And they failed. 13 armies failed taking Dong Zhou down. So one guy set up his like beautiful, like this daughter is supposed to be like the finest fucking daughter ever, and he used her, I'm sorry to say, to like fucking take Dong Zhou down, which is it's just like it's really funny. It's like I think that's part of like the historical like irony and slash tragedy of it. It's a good time.
I'm glad Darfox is enjoying the Three Kingdoms TV show. Morgana, do you know anything about Romance of the Three Kingdoms or the Three Kingdoms?
I know of it by name, but I have not seen it or don't know much. But I mean, this is the most I've heard about it. Right here.
Yeah,
it sounds fantastic.
well, we'll probably continue to give updates because Darfox and I are slowly making our way through this 80 episode long TV show. Like it's ridiculous.
Yeah, we're like in episode 8. or about, so like we got a ways to go. We probably won't update every week, but every once in a while when we've enjoyed it enough, we probably update.
We had some friends over today who are working their way through One Piece, so
boy,
80 episodes feels like cake.
But the fun thing about Three Kingdoms is that like if you read enough manga and you play enough video games, watch enough anime, you just know random details. Like I say, like I know Lu Bu just because he's such an imposing character in like the Dynasty Warrior games, and he keeps appearing in those games and stuff like that. And of course, everybody's favorite Prison School has a Gakto character who's always referencing Three Kingdoms. So now I just rewatched Prison School. Now I want to rewatch it again because now I know so much more Three Kingdoms characters.
There was the Three Kingdom otaku in Princess Jellyfish as well.
Yes, I was just thinking about that.
Who was the Three Kingdoms otaku? Was it?
It was the tall, lanky girl who ends up becoming a model.
It was. I want to call her Yafia for some reason. Was that her name?
Nope, I can't remember her name.
I do remember the character now. Yeah, she was one of the main. I guess you could say main comedic.
Maya.
Maya. Yes.
Maya. Okay. I can see why I thought her name was Yafia. Now I want to know what Yafia is. That must be a name.
Beastars.
Oh,
Yafia
okay.
is the Beastar.
Yes.
Interesting.
Mayaya was BFFs with the train otaku.
Bamba?
Bamba, yeah.
Bamba.
And Mayaya. They were great.
Good manga.
Such a good manga. Maybe we should do a retrospective on that one day.
Yeah.
My anniversary.
Sure.
Yeah. Hell yeah. We never watched. There's an anime for it, right?
There's an anime for it. There's a live action movie. There's a live action TV series.
We got options for programming.
We do.
Are the live action ones available at all in English?
I gotta check.
If they
I'm sure there's like fan subs, but
if they're available on Japanese Netflix, they might have English subtitles.
Oh.
And that's an option we can leverage potentially. This is potential programming talk live on podcasts. Please look forward to it. Maybe.
Okay, Dar. Anything besides Three Kingdoms?
No, I'm good. I think I'm spent. Lubu spent me.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. You know what? I'm not gonna talk about a manga this week. Instead, I would like to dedicate just a little time to a news item. It's about the death of Nami Sano. She was the manga artist behind Haven't You Heard? I'm Sakamoto.
Oh wow.
Yeah, she recently passed away at the beginning of August from cancer. She was only 36.
Oh no.
Yeah, so young.
That's awful.
Yeah. I think most people know Haven't You Heard? I'm Sakamoto, which was like kind of like a sleeper hit, but anime series. Seven Seas puts out the manga if you want to read. She also did a manga called Migi and Dali, which it ended in 2021, but there's supposed to be an anime coming out this fall. So it's just such a fuck cancer. Cancer sucks. 36, man. It's so young. It's so young.
It's so young to even be diagnosed with cancer. Forget just die from it. Like, that's scary.
Mm-hmm.
And so sad.
I guess she passed away only 1 month after being diagnosed.
Sounds like that was prenatal tension.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
That stuff is always scary. Very sad.
Very sad. But yeah, I would like to talk about the passing of Nami Sano more than any kind of like random manga that I read this week. So
you're a pretty fan of the Sakamoto manga, right?
I love that manga and I love the anime.
I've seen the OP a lot. It's a fun OP.
I mean, yeah, we should maybe read the first volume for Triple Dip. It's a good comedy.
Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, I remember reading it ages ago when it first came out in English. It's a lot of fun.
It has very bishonen and like kind of shoujo type art, but in a like ridiculous context of comedy.
Yeah, I remember it being really fun, and the concept is fun.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's go ahead and wrap up what you've been reading then. Before we move along to our main segment, let's talk about next week. Next week, we're going to do a one-shot. We've been sitting on this book, River's Edge by Kikō Okazaki. Kikō Okazaki, of course, is the manga artist behind Helter Skelter and Pink. And, Seamus read this, I'm going to say, like, over a month ago. And was going to talk about it, but wanted to wait till Morgana got back. So now we will...
So considerate.
So nice of Seamus. We're going to read it for next week. It's a single volume release. And, it will be a one-shot review on Kikō Okazaki's River's Edge. I know nothing about this book. I'm looking forward to it.
All I'll say is keep Fooly Cooley in mind.
Oh, interesting.
Fooly Cooley, the Gainax anime?
Yeah. There's
Okay.
some very obvious, like, okay, the people who made this clearly read this book.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
I'm trying to think of like what aspect of Fooly Cooley I should expect.
I'm gonna guess it's the older woman coming in on the teenager's life.
Oh, okay,
and-
right.
Also, so Fooly Cooley is what it is, but I love the soundtrack by the Pillows. And there
Yes.
is a song on the soundtrack. I think it's actually called River's Edge. So I wonder if it's if the title of the manga is an actual reference to the Pillows and to Fooly Cooley, like outright.
Well, we'll find out next week when we read that for a one shot. Stay tuned. Okay, let's take a quick break. Darfox is going to bring down the stream for a little bit. And when we come back, it'll be time for our main segment, a Twipple Dip.
Peace, y'all.
Okay, everybody, we are back. It's time to do a Twipple Dip. It's where we read the next volume of something we read on a triple dip. But let's be honest. Let's be honest, everybody. This is just like ongoing retrospective now for Chainsaw Man, Die Dark, and Yokohama Kaidashi Kikō. That's all that's happening. I mean, we could look at other stuff, but we just want to read these 3 volumes as they come out.
This is a tonally very interesting selection, because Die Dark and Chainsaw Man, I feel like, have some things in common, but Yokohama Kaidashi Kikō is just, like, out of nowhere in this lineup.
Yeah, a little bit. But yeah, for this Twipple Dip episode, we are looking at Die Dark Volume 5. We are looking at Yokohama Kaidashi Kikō Deluxe Edition 3. That includes volumes 7, 8, and 9, because it's a 3-in-1. And we're looking at the chapters that are allocated for Volume 15 of Chainsaw Man. Morgana, you got back? You've been out? I'm gonna let you pick the order of what we're gonna talk about.
Oh gosh. I think I want to talk about Chainsaw Man first.
Alright, we're gonna kick it off with Chainsaw Man, manga by Tatsuki Fujimoto, ongoing. Right now it's serialized over on Shonen Jump Plus, the online site for an app for Shueisha. It's in the middle of part 2. For the chapters for volume 15, it was chapters 123 through 133. And like I mentioned, I think volume 12 is gonna come out this October in English. But like I said, volume 15 is out in Japan, and those chapters are here available on the Shonen Jump app. So we read them. We're gonna talk about them. Basically, what's happening here is throughout this entire volume, we are seeing it's the arc of the falling devil. I think last time we talked about Chainsaw Man with volume 14, a devil showed up and we were all making guesses about, what could it be? What's it going to be? So, Morgana, it was the falling devil.
Yes, I think I had remembered saying that it was maybe the Blood Devil is back. Because I remember it was like a primal fear, right? When I was trying to figure out what it could be.
Yeah.
But falling is a good one. Falling is definitely like I'm not particularly afraid of heights. I'm super clumsy, but I'm not like, but thinking about like, you ever like falling asleep and suddenly you get the sensation that you're falling and you like jump and like you're like jerked back away. Like it's such a like an innate human fear of like, pretty scary.
Yep. Or being on a roller coaster and going down that first dive, and it's the
I don't go on roller coasters.
sensation of like floating almost. Sometimes when you're on an airplane and traveling, that happens and it sucks.
That like your stomach like goes upward.
Yeah, because the turbulence, it literally like drops like a couple feet and you're like floating for a second and everybody freaks out. It's not a fun sensation. Nobody likes that. But yeah, Morgana, we'll start with you. What do you think about these chapters following Asa as she's tormented by the Falling Devil? But Denji comes to save the day. Kind of.
The design for the Falling Devil's super cool. I loved like all the arms with like the floating head.
Can you tell Tatsuki Fujimoto saw the menu?
Yeah, right.
Very obvious reference.
That movie came out like just about the time these chapters came out. So I think he literally was just on the fly being like, yeah, that's hot, let's do that.
I mean, you do what you gotta do. It looks really cool. I was very struck. So what the Falling Devil does is makes you feel your trauma and then you fall upwards, right?
Yes.
And Asa at one point is talking to Yoru.
Yes.
And
the war
devil and
inside of her
is talking about how she is afraid of both companionship and being alone. And I'm like, it's remarkably astute, like self-observation for a teenager, like to make. I'm like, that's very. I'm surprised by this, especially since she doesn't seem very self-aware in a lot of other ways. Like when she was on the date with Denji, and she was like, "I'm a perfect date. I did everything right," and she's like the worst date ever. So I was like, I don't know that I find this believable of a teenager. Also, what the hell is my boyfriend doing at the end of this volume? Like telling Denji not to be Chainsaw Man anymore?
Yeah.
I was like, what? But he's still working for public safety?
Yeah. This is the part of the story where he finally cracks. Like Denji has finally cracked him. Because he's like, Denji's so stupid that he just can't fucking handle dealing with Denji anymore.
I want to tell you something. When Denji's sitting there like, but I want to make both choices. This is literally like talking to my toddler.
Denji is Sev?
This is 100% talking to a 3.5-year-old. Like, you can do X or Y. I want to do X and Y. No, you cannot do X and Y. You can do X or Y. No, I want to do X and Y. And also Z. And like, no, you can do X or Y.
We can talk about Z later.
Right? Like, it's just, oh my god. And yeah, no, Denji's a toddler. He's a preschooler. Absolutely, 110%. A preschooler who just really wants to have sex. Like, that's his physical age and his mental age are like not in sync in the least.
Nope. Let's turn quickly to Seamus. Seamus, what do you think about the chapters here? Also, like, we're just fresh off of doing our Fire Punch retrospective. How's it going back to Chainsaw Man again?
How was it like going back? Brand. It's funny, alright, reading this and how much more. I think we kind of brought this up like when we were talking about it last week as well. Like Chainsaw Man in general, because he's not living in as fucked a situation. He is not like as fucked a person.
Yeah.
Life isn't all terrible, you know. I've got things in mind that aren't like, I don't know, destroy everyone, get revenge on my sister, or like murder. I think his two thing with the choices, I think, was more in terms of like. I think there is like a simple mindedness in one way, but it's also very like why it's a bit like in I don't know, like where they have a thing where it's like what's that thing? Is it Sophie's Choice where they're like you can only save one?
Yeah, one
Yeah.
daughter.
And then someone just goes, "Yeah, fuck that! I'm just going to save them both," and just like why be constrained by what other people force you to do when you can just be like, "Ah, fuck it." You know, that's what you want me to do. Make a choice, but like, why do I have to make a choice?
I mean, he does ultimately seem to make the choice of like Nayuta comes first.
Well, I think for now he's going with that.
I will say, I do think that the toddler aspect of this, that my toddler also thinks, fuck it, why should I do what you tell me to do? So, everybody, like 3-year-olds are just anarchists. But yes, yeah, no, I do think, there is some of that, like, why should I do what you're telling me to do? And also, why are you trying to do this? It doesn't make sense.
It kind of ties back to his introduction in part 2 as well, when the monster was like, choose who to save, and then he chooses neither. It's almost like the opposite.
No. He chooses to save the cat.
Yeah, that's Z. He chose option Z.
Because I was like, this happened. I was like, there's something that happened. This, and I was like, yes, that's exactly what you were pointing about there.
So there is like an aspect of Denji that's like the character represents this like, fuck you, I'm gonna walk down this path, even though it's kind of directed by ignorance, and he kind of knows this to an extent, but like he's gonna go his way because fuck, he survived a lot of shit in part 1, and fuck if he's not gonna be able to just live his life how he wants to live it.
He's like anti-establishment, but like kind of by accident. just by virtue of being stupid and stubborn.
Well, I think it's like he's a single-mindedness, and as long as you don't interfere with what he wants to do, then it's all grand. And once you do interfere, he's like, well, I'm just going through you, like, and I can, pull a chainsaw out of my head. So, like, what can you really do to stop me?
That was a great moment when, like, obviously he has a lot of trauma from the shit that happened in part 1. So he started floating up into the air. He wasn't immune to the falling devil's like powers, but he was like, "Oh, I just have a blanket rule that whenever a devil starts using mind tricks, I just chainsaw my own brain." So that like, so like it doesn't affect me because he's actively destroying his own brain cells.
There's something very I don't know, like, there are so many shonen protagonists, especially in recent years. I feel like a lot of shonen manga has tried very hard to become thoughtful and edgy and everything. And this, I feel like, in some ways harkens back to the dumb shonen protagonists of our youth, like Goku, just dumb, just like kind of like, you can't use mind tricks on me because there's nothing between my ears, like, but he says the quiet part out loud.
Yeah. Or Tatsuki Fujimoto is like drawing the quiet part out loud on purpose.
Right.
For our amusement.
Or we watched a little bit of Slam Dunk recently, and we obviously talked a lot about the movie, but the way that Sakuragi kind of acts as well, where he's just like bluffing his way through everything, just like rushing his way through everything. He has like natural talent, so like it carries him forward a long time. And there is a part in the story where he kind of like starts to shift, where he becomes dedicated to basketball. But like that's a very, very popular protagonist kind of like archetype.
Yeah.
Of like, I don't fit the mold that these characters around me are, but I'm just gonna fucking bulldoze my way through and make it work somehow. And sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't.
It wouldn't be me returning without mentioning Yu Yu Hakusho, but I feel
of
like
course,
Yusuke is very much that character. Yusuke is also very much like, I'm a dumbass, and I know I'm a dumbass, but I've got fists.
I got these meat mitts.
I'm looking through these chapters, and the entire fight against the falling devil is crazy, with like so many like good visuals, like when they're on the plate in hell, where they're fighting that weird tentacle monster. It's like the tentacles are like nipples with like hooks coming out of them.
Yeah. It's you know how we were reading Parasite when I was pregnant with Severina, and now we read this when I'm like in the beginning of my breastfeeding journey with my son. It's very. I'm like, this is kind of painful to watch. Kind of upsetting.
Did they ever explain what that monster was? 'Cause I think a character actually asked, like, what's the deal with that? And then they never named it, unless I
They
missed
never
it.
name what type of devil or monster it is, but so I don't even know. I think Tatsuki Fujimoto more went for this looks cool and weird and disturbing, so we're just gonna do that.
I could worry about it later, because the whole deal with devils is that they come back.
I just need to
eventually.
get to this joke about the Chainsaw Man bike.
Yeah.
I didn't know I could do that.
That's the best
Like
part.
an
Denji
idiot.
taking credit for it.
Or even before that, Asa's like, steal that bike and he's like, I can't steal a bike from a woman. It's like, what about that guy? And he immediately kicks the guy and steals it because it's a dude as opposed to a woman.
He's so bad.
I didn't catch it. What did she sacrifice to turn the bike into a weapon? 'Cause remember, she used like
So the war devil can turn things that they possess into.
right. Okay, and because she was on the bike, she was
She
able
on
to-
the bike
okay.
and she just made herself believe that this is her bike.
She was part of the stealing. She was like.
She kind of figured
yeah.
out that power like when they got out of the aquarium, because she technically didn't have
Right.
enough money to buy aquarium, but she did it anyway because she just believed.
Gotta believe.
Gotta believe. Oh man, we're skipping around these chapters, but like there's so much.
It was mostly the fight, right? So
It's mostly the fight, but like at the beginning, it's like a lot of the trauma with Asa.
Oh
and
yeah, the cat stuff.
That cat story, holy shit! How
Yeah.
terrible.
Asa had it rough.
It's amazing she's not a serial killer. That is like serial killer origin story shit. Like an orphan whose cat is drowned.
And it's such a. It starts off with such a sweet moment where Asa's willing to give the cat up to like some sort of adoption place, because she's willing to work with the person who runs the orphanage. Like, okay, fine, I'm gonna try and open up. I'm gonna try and hang out with other kids, and that is the cat. If I'm not mistaken, that is the cat that she went back and saved that caused her mother to die. So that cat's like very significant to like her previous trauma.
Oh shit! I didn't even. Oh
Yeah.
my god! I didn't even think about that.
So like that cat is like basically the reason her mother died. They're more like her actions, saving that cat. And then that cat's dead too now because I guess that person's a fucking psychopath. It's kind of crazy that we don't know what to deal with that person anymore because
Seriously.
I guess Asa didn't get to. I mean, I don't know if it's gonna be another flashback later in the story where like turns out Asa did murder that person somehow and she just blocked it out. That'd be really crazy, but I'd be happy that person would be dead. Or she casually mentions this to Chainsaw Man. Eventually, Chainsaw Man's like, "I'm just gonna go find that person and kill them." Can't drown a cat.
She's a woman. He won't kill her.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
I mean, she's not like a babe, so maybe, but
There is a couple besides like the huge fights here, and getting to see the falling devil do random things like going shopping. That was a scene.
that was so good.
Oh, when they're
Uh,
getting apples and like, what apples pairs well with human flesh?
Weirdly, again, would not be me returning if I didn't mention this. Weirdly reminded me of Tampopo. There's a scene, a vignette in Tampopo with a woman who goes into a grocery store and she's squeezing all the produce.
Oh yeah.
And the guy who works there is like chasing her around and she's like sticking her fingers in the peaches, like smushing them down.
That vignette is so weird and disconnected from everything.
It's so weird.
I mean, the whole movie's like that, right? But like that
Right.
that one specifically, like the movie's about like kind of food and kind of enjoyment, sort of. And I guess some people just enjoy messing food up, fingering food.
Yeah, somehow, like, that is one of the more disturbing vignettes. I'm like, why? Why would you go in there and do that to all those poor fruits?
Yeah, I know.
Who are you, you psychopath?
That's so funny. What one detail that I did like about that that little scene when finally that was buying the apple is that the clerk for the store was up on the roof because obviously they're experiencing their own trauma, so they would have been falling to the sky if they weren't indoors. So when they cover that, they actually show what happens to somebody who's indoors. But the way their face is drawn like they have like multiple G's on them, like they're really getting pushed up because their trauma might be really severe, and they say that you fall harder or faster, heavier if you have a lot of trauma. So like it wasn't just like gravity was reversed for them, and they were lying down. They happened to be lying down on the roof. They're actively just kind of getting crushed against that roof, which is a very kind of like horrific idea.
So I want to ask Morgana and Seamus something. I'm not going to ask Darfox this because Darfox has been reading new chapters as they come out, but for the contents here in Volume 15, we saw Denji, at one point, Chainsaw Man and Asa are sent to hell. They end up on a plate. And, Asa's passed out, but Denji's trying to escape through a door and keeps getting attacked. The door is blocked by the Falling Devil. And Falling Devil's like, my main dish does not call for Chainsaw Man. Leave Asa, and I'll send you back. And of course, Denji makes a joke like, can I at least bring her ass back with me? They are saved because another Chainsaw Man slices up the Falling Devil. Now we know, Morgana. There is another Chainsaw Man here.
Plot twist.
I mean, it was kind of evident because I forgot the name of the friend, Asa's friend, who becomes joins with the Justice Devil. When she tries to make an escape, she gets killed. And we saw that it was a chainsaw, but it was kind of pointing that it wasn't Denji because right before that happens, Denji's sleeping in bed.
Right.
So yeah, there is another Chainsaw Man in this world. Plot twist.
I don't know how I feel about it. I feel like I always dislike that that trope in like superhero stuff.
The Spider-Man pointing at the other Spider-Man is like, you!
You know what's really funny? So James and I were going to go see the new Spider-Verse movie, speaking of Spider-Man. We were going to see it on Juneteenth because we both had the day off, but our daughter still had daycare, and I wasn't going to have my C-section until the 20th. And I went into labor at 3 a.m. on Juneteenth, so I didn't get to go. Which was like, we're like, cool, like wreck all our plans. But we did finally watch Spider. It's on Google now. You can buy it, and we did finally watch it. And I was saying to my husband, normally I don't like that kind of like, oh, clones or multiple Spider-Mans or multiple universes because it gets kind of hokey. But I really enjoy it in Spider-Verse, so it can be done in a way, because it's clear they're having fun with it, and it's clear all these characters, all these spider people exist. They've made comics of all these characters, so they have backgrounds, they have other, they have stuff going on. It's not just like they were thrown together. So I'm cautiously optimistic about two Chainsaw Men.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, this is still ongoing, so we don't know exactly what Tatsuki Fujimoto is planning. The only thing I know is that Nayuta helped save the day at the end by making the devil think that humans taste like actual literal poop. And is approached by Fami. Like, this entire thing was orchestrated by Fami, the famine devil, who wants to control starved... She can control starved people and make them her pawns, and wanting to control the war devil, because the war devil can... Were they saying the apocalypse is happening?
The Nostradamus prediction, yeah.
The age of devils is approaching.
A very 90s Japan thing.
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like my mom was also into Nostradamus in the 90s. Like, was it just a thing in the 90s? Like,
It was a thing in the 90s.
yeah. I wasn't imagining it then.
Y2K, it was all happening.
That's right, that's right.
It was all over the media, so everybody knew about it through pop culture. The world is gonna end after
Is there going to be a
1999.
Y2K devil?
Oh, I hope so. I hope it's Chris Jericho, the wrestler. If that happens, Sheamus is gonna drop this manga for sure.
It's like, why Fujimoto? Could you not just get rid of it? Well, I don't know. If it's 90s Chris Jericho, I'd be alright.
Okay. I mean, it would be. This is supposed to be 1999. I just think it's funny that the Famine Devil tells Nayuta, the new Control Devil, the one that's been living with Denji, is like, we gotta stop it, or like, when the Age of Devil comes, we won't have things like pizza and Chinese food. And Nayuta's like, no more pizza, what? But she won't help. She won't help Fami. Because she's like, I got school. And just cuts her in school.
Using
Now
her
you don't
powers
like
to get
school.
extra dessert.
Yeah. I just really like that joke.
So Nayuta's like the brattiest kid ever.
I mean, she also has the control powers, so she's taking other kids' desserts as well.
Wait, did they explain, like, was she, like, reborn as a baby and they found her, or was she, like... How did that whole thing come about, actually? I can't remember.
Yeah, they...
Found her
when-
in China or Russia?
When Denji met her, she was a kid, right? She was a little bit younger than she is now, I think.
Yeah, but she was not like a baby.
No, but she
wasn't
have been,
newborn. Yeah.
But she must have been born at some point, right? Like, the implication is that she was, like, reincarnated, I guess?
Yeah. Pretty quickly, but yeah, she was reincarnated. Well, yeah, Kishibe basically rescued her from wherever she was because somebody else found her. Kishibe like went to go get her.
Mm-hmm.
Although, actually, yeah, she could not have been born unless she possessed a human that already, because she was at least 5, right? When at the end of part 1, when they brought her to Denji, and that, I mean, it hadn't.
Yeah, she seemed like she was around 4 or 5-ish.
Yeah, and hadn't she just died? Like, hadn't.
Yeah,
Makima
just was gone, and so
right. So
maybe they're reborn at a age of 4 or 5. Maybe a 4 or 5-year-old got possessed and became the new Control Devil. It's one of those.
Yeah, I suddenly have a lot of questions.
We probably won't get the answer.
Maybe it was a product of Denji eating her body that made this happen. Because he did do that.
He did. But yeah, trying to think if there's any other things to mention here. Obviously, you mentioned at the end of this volume, we have Denji being forced to make a choice. Don't become Chainsaw Man, and then you and Nayuta can live a peaceful life. If you become Chainsaw Man, we're gonna kill Nayuta. He's like, I'm gonna do both.
Not to mention the counter offer he had for I forget his name, Octopus Boy. If you let me go, I'll tongue your butthole for like a whole week. That's very direct and very specific.
That is what it was in Japanese.
And I appreciate that the response wasn't like, ew man, no. It was just like, no need. Not necessary.
Yeah. I feel like Denji would have done it.
No, he would have 100% done it.
Remember he like right off the bat ate cigarettes for money? Like, this kid has no qualms.
Yeah.
I guess the last thing we can mention is that after the Falling Devil arc, there was a bunch of collateral damage. A bunch of people died. Asa looks kind of traumatized by it all, and on television now we have protesters, people against Chainsaw Man, and also the Chainsaw Man Church, believers of Chainsaw Man. That student council president guy was there on TV getting mocked, but somebody was supporting him. We didn't see their face.
Yeah, he's just a puppet, a pawn.
I mean, the Famine Devil was also there, so they're obviously running the Chainsaw Man Church. So I guess the setup here is that we're gonna see how this plays out with the the church faction and the protester faction, and what's he gonna do? Is he gonna stay with Naruto, or is he gonna become Chainsaw Man again? What do you think, Morgana?
Well, I'm also thinking about this other Chainsaw Man in the picture, and like, even if Denji decides he's not gonna be Chainsaw Man anymore, is this other Chainsaw Man gonna give trouble? Like,
this is true. This is very true.
Also, I don't even know if Denji would like not follow orders on purpose. I feel like he would not even think about it and transform into Chainsaw Man, like, without thinking. Because he doesn't think.
He does not.
As we've established.
He's a true follower of the way.
Yeah. He has achieved nirvana, actually, like, just chainsawing his own brain to stop thinking deep
But hold
thoughts.
on now. That's Buddhism now. Don't be getting your, like, East Asian religions confused.
Sorry, I was never good at it. At differentiating them. But yeah, no, I feel like he's... You know, he's just gonna, like, he's gonna fuck up something somewhere, because that's what he does.
It is interesting seeing this church stuff come up right kind of after we read Fire Punch, which had like a big proponent of like the church popping up around like a super individual and how people might interpret that individual and how that might be different from the actual person.
Also, in 90s Japan, most infamous event involves a cult.
Yes,
I was gonna
the
say-
sarin gas.
The sarin gas sound, yeah. Mhm.
Yes.
Man, that's really fascinating.
Wouldn't be surprised if the story goes there and that triggers some sort of devil appearance.
Wait, isn't Tatsuki Fujimoto, like, in his 20s still?
I think he's in his 30s now.
Okay, so he is... Alright. I was like, does he even have any memories of the 90s? But, yes, probably.
Yeah, he is 30 now. He just turned 30.
It's always fun when it kind of dawns on me that multiple people I work with were born after 9/11. And I'm like, okay, you just know that by reputation, huh?
Yeah, you didn't live through that. You didn't watch that in your 6th grade classroom on a little TV.
Exactly.
And whatever, I was in college.
So you definitely remember.
Oh, yeah.
Were you in New Jersey?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so you definitely remember.
Oh, yeah. It was, there were multiple people at my school that were directly affected from that. It was fucked up.
And that's when I go back to work, 9/11. I feel like
it all comes together.
it all comes together.
I know we're wrapping down on Chainsaw Man, but what do you all think about the artwork for these chapters? Do you feel like Tatsuki Mojo is doing well? Was the action easier to read, harder to read? What do you think compared to like how he's been drawing the series? Is it getting better? Is it getting worse? Because I kind of feel like he's struggling with some aspects. Like there's less detail, but I think it's smarter. You know,
Yeah.
it's clearer. It's not as confusing. Especially like the scene with the chainsaw bike. I thought that was all very good.
Yeah, no, you're right. It is a little bit less detailed. I was trying to figure out what I noticed that was different, and that's really what it is. but not in a bad way. Definitely, like, it's tight. Like, it's if it was writing, I'd say it's succinct.
Mm-hmm. But the expressions for the characters, like when Asa's going through her trauma, that looks fantastic.
He's always good at that stuff, though, like exaggerated faces and
the emotions behind the characters. That was also true in Fire Punch. Sorry, go ahead.
I really appreciate the moment when he first appears and grabs onto Asa and kind of saves her, and he gives like a genuinely pretty good speech about how there's bad things and good things, and while the good things don't get rid of the bad things don't really get rid of the good things kind of speech. And then it leads to the punchline of like, I'm still hanging on to have sex, which kind of there's a further payoff. Then Asa's like, ew, nobody will have sex with you, and then what? And then he starts falling too. Like that causes him enough trauma that like the falling devil power affects him suddenly. That was pretty perfect Chainsaw Man.
No woman would have sex with a man with a chainsaw for a head.
Yep.
I don't know, Asa. There are a lot of weird women in the world.
I was thinking that. I was like, there's like 3.5 billion people in the world. Surely you can find one.
Right? It's just a matter of finding her.
Plus, that whole cult, like, that's going to attract like women who are probably like into having sex with a man with a chainsaw for a head.
Yeah, and there's very easy ways to prevent chainsaw, or like there's chaps that are made of like this specific kind of fiber that it's really fuzzy. So when chainsaws cut into them, the fiber kind of tangles up the chainsaw basically. So if you fall and the chainsaw is falling on your leg or something like that, it basically will shut the chainsaw down before it gets to your leg. So they just gotta wear a cowl of just fuzzy texture. They could probably go at it, Like there's probably a lot of safe ways to do it. I'm advocating for the chainsaw sex, is what I'm saying.
Oh Jesus!
This is now reminding me of, wasn't this come up in Fire Punch, where it's like your semen is probably on fire as well. So
yes,
like,
that came up.
Like, are we sure? Like at the moment, the climax, his dick doesn't turn into a chainsaw.
Okay. A few things. First of all, Darfox has been thinking about this.
Welcome back, Morgana.
I was also wondering if Denji could make his dick a chainsaw. And if so, I'm shocked it hasn't come up yet. Frankly.
We can only hope.
I mean, I can picture it perfectly.
I mean, basically, when his head turns into a chainsaw, it is a non-subtle metaphor. Like, giant erection out of his head. So yeah, I don't know. Fujimoto, your public has spoken. Give the people what they want.
Chainsaw sex.
But also, ouch.
Okay, I think we're done. We're done with Chainsaw Man. Let's move along to another manga to talk about.
Heartwarming stories of I don't know where we're going.
I mean, I guess the final thing to ask for Morgana and Seamus is, are you still enjoying Chainsaw Man? Do you want to keep reading?
Well, now I need to know if he's got a chainsaw dick, so yes.
This is very true. Okay, I walked into that.
But in general, yes, I do. I would like to read more Chainsaw Man.
Okay, what about you, Seamus?
Yep, same for me.
That's good. All right, Morgana, let's pick another manga.
Die Dark.
Okay, staying on that same spectrum of gory horror manga, I guess, with Die Dark Volume 5 by our favorite manga artist, Kyuhei Shida. I was not able to give localization credits because we just were reading on the Viz app. Actually, for Chainsaw Man, hold on.
They're out there at the start of the chapters, yeah.
Yeah.
They're kind of like in between the panels. They're kind of like just squeezed in there, but
Okay. So the Chainsaw Man chapters we read, the translation was by Amanda Haley and lettering by Sabrina Heap. Thank you for that. And they're on Viz and Show and Jump Out. Let's see, with Q Hayashida's Volume 5 of Die Dark. Translation is by Daniel Coman, adaptation Casey Lucas, lettering Phil Christie. I have the copy from Seven Seas here. 14-year-old Zaha Sanko is the most wanted man in the universe. Wherever he goes, everybody tries to kill him. But things go unusually dire when his enemies send an immortal photonuclear man to try and snuff him out. Somehow, Sanko and company survive and decide to make a pit stop at Darkness, the mysterious planet of darkness. Darkness holds all sorts of secrets, but the biggest of all might be Hajime Damemaru, one of Sanko's companions. Just who is Damemaru? And how does he keep coming back to life? Okay, I feel like this copy is kind of leading us on, everybody, because we don't find that out. They raise that question, but they don't answer it.
That is the topic of some of the chapters in this volume.
Listen, I'm just going to come out and say this, everybody. I think Darfox said this about like the second volume of Die Dark we had talked about. You said something around like when everything is crazy, like when everything is insane all the time, then nothing is insane all the time.
Yep.
I kinda, my interest in Die Dark waned a little on this volume.
Yeah,
It's meandering. The plot.
Yes. I will say the plot is not what I care about. I'm much more invested in the weird adventures of these dark space people. But in general, I will say I don't like Die Dark as much as I like Dorohedoro. I'm really enjoying Die Dark, but I do think it's not hooking me in the same way that Dorohedoro did, even this early on. So yeah, I'm really just in it to watch my buddies like do weird space shit and eat weird space things.
They weren't doing that much weird space shit.
No.
In this volume.
There was almost too much plot, frankly.
Yes, maybe that's what it is, yeah. And then they spend all those chapters on what is Hajime Damemaru? And then like the answer was, I don't know.
Hajime Damemaru is Kaiman. It's the same thing. You've got this weird dude who doesn't know anything about why he does what he does, and he just keeps dying and coming back to life, and everything is very mysterious. And he even looks like Kai, so...
But he's not the main character.
No.
Zaha Sanko is the main character, and he's just kind of this naive, pretty boy that's like, I want some bones.
He's kind of like Noi. Just kind of like happy-go-lucky, super powerful. He's not as babely as Noi.
Yeah.
But kind of in terms of character type, I feel like there's like a similar vibe.
Shimada Death is Nikaido when she went into devil form.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I like Shimada Death the most.
Oh
Shimada
yeah.
Death is the best.
Definitely, 110%. Also Avakian.
Avakian's good too, but he is the mom character.
Oh yeah, definitely.
He is very much like trying to keep these crazy little shits under control.
Also Moja's pretty great.
Yes, I like the mini Moja at the end when they took the mini ship out. That was pretty good.
I like how much Moja is a character. I think in a lot of manga, a character like Moja would just be like the mascot and not really do much or say much, but he's like really involved as like the ship and like as like a character. Like he's got actual, I don't know, like stuff that he does. He's involved in things.
Yeah, that's something with this one. I feel like that was like a spotlight on that ship character thing.
He's like the most capable one, almost. Riding the ship, helping everybody out. He's like the best support character.
He like predicts needs ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
prepares for things.
I guess he's kind of like Turkey from Dorohedoro.
Oh yeah.
Turkey.
Yeah, Turkey.
Oof.
With the turkey mask.
Turkey mask. Okay.
The one that had the magic to make clones out of food.
Okay, yeah. I remember that, yeah.
At the end, it's like, I turned myself into a woman. It's like, oh, okay.
I don't remember that, but okay.
Wow.
That was a lot of Dorohedoro.
There was a lot of Dorohedoro. But you know what I'm saying, Dar, about this Volume 5? I don't know. Maybe you feel different.
I feel a little different, but it's more like this kind of feels like this feels a little closer to like Dorohedoro Endgame, where it was Dorohedoro Endgame had that thing where there was like a lot of different parties kind of vying for the control of the same stuff or looking for the same people, and it was kind of circular. Whereas in the beginning of Dorohedoro, it would jump between basically two parties, which was Kaiman and Nikaido, and then would jump between En and his
His gang.
Yeah. And it was almost like a slice of life on both sides. And occasionally they would crisscross, and over the course of like the volumes, the lore started to get built up slowly, and then there was that tipping point where it did become like, okay, everybody's taking action against this person, and that person became like almost like a war back and forth. Where this already kind of feels like it's in that state where we didn't quite get the chance to. I guess we're 5 volumes in, but like it's already kind of in that state where they're getting closer to figuring out who these characters are, and it's just almost like a rat race back and forth with the photonuclear people making these weapons and stuff like that, these human weapons. I don't know.
Well, it's also a problem because with the bad guy faction, they're split. They got the religious side with the Light Sphere, and they're the one making the photonuclear man. But also, like, there's another organization called the Photosphere themselves, and they seem like the business side.
Yeah, which I forgot those were different things until like the spy was like reporting to the other one.
Yeah.
I was like, were these different? Oof, I thought these were the same thing. So yeah, those two are kind of too similar. I feel like to be separate.
I don't really care about them too much. I like the design that Q Hashia did for like the religious group and the other group. And I guess the big reveal is that in the flashbacks of Zahasanko when he was a kid, he was at that school and that rival. I forgot the name. But that rival, something happened to him during graduation. Did we read about that? I was trying to remember.
I don't think so.
I don't think we know about exactly what happened to that guy.
Well, his bones were extracted, so I figured the axe did it to him somehow. It's like a reverse. It's like kind of the reverse what the axe does. The axe like melts the flesh away to leave the bones.
Right, and like at the end of this volume, he's coming back. Like he's the new. They're gonna make another photonuclear man, and he comes back, and you see him all bloody coming out of the pot, being like "Meatball spaghetti, damn you!" That's really about it.
Interesting to intercept because the flashback story stuff of the guy being a kid was mostly like set up, and like it didn't really feel like it was going to be directly related to what's happening now. But like it basically was setting up one of the main villains now.
Yeah, I was surprised by that too.
That shitty kid was Hinata Baggo. I'm never going to remember most of these names. I'm only going to remember the main characters.
There's Hellmaster, there's Bone Daddy, there's Shimada Def, there's Sanako.
Are you laughing at Evikian being Bone Daddy?
Yes.
It's more like Bone Mommy, but...
Right.
Very sexist comment there, Dakazu.
Hey now.
in your characterization of him.
Is Avakian gendered at all? Did I miss the gendering of Avakian?
I mean, they refer to him as he, but
They
also
do, right?
he's a backpack.
He's a paggy.
He's a backpack with thoughts and emotions. Have we like considered this deeply? Like what?
Yeah, it's still very much WTF fest, right? Because so much of the shit that's so weird is considered mundane in their world, right? So it still has that really good Kyo Hayashida quality to it. Where it's just if you think about it enough, you're like what? You're like, why? But yeah, Aveki needs a backpack, and he's a very diligent and watchful backpack. Really watches out for them.
Maybe I'm just disappointed because this volume didn't have enough weird Q Hayashida like cooking time. Like you made that YouTube short about like them hanging out and they're just Muppets talking about like their bones and the mimic. There's that one page in this volume where like Moja's like, "Hey, I took a copy of that that one vendor, and here's like what everything costs," and it's like a bunch of bones, and it says stuff like Canon. You can get this for 850,000 bones, or body armor HQ high quality for 630,000 bones. It's just a page of like you can buy this. So weird.
Oh, I liked when Shimada Death made them do icebreakers. So Hajime Damimaru is like giving his whole backstory. Is like, my name is Hajime Damimaru, and my favorite food is the mimime kit. And
oh, when they're interrogating him, right?
Yeah. But Shimada Death was like, "Tell us about yourself." And was like, "I'll go first." Very like orientation day.
Yes, Shimada Death, we find out, has 20 worlds under their sway. Very nice. But Sanko's just like eating like a bunch of mochi. It looks really weird. I guess that's another food thing that was in here.
And it'll explode.
Nightfall mochi. Plug this weird thing into this thing, and then boom! It's super yummy and fluffy, and looks dark. I don't know. My, like I said, my interest in Dai Dark is kind of going down.
My favorite part was when wait, Sanko? You just said his name, and I'm blanking.
Zaha Sanko.
Took over the shop, and he just like ruined her.
Oh, like he was selling the stupid like buns for like super cheap.
Yeah, and the monster man who came to buy, he was like, "Wait, this much?" He was like, "Wait, never mind. I'll see you later." He just runs away with it. And then they kill a few, or Shimada Death kills a few. So all the return customers don't come back. It's pretty funny.
Yeah,
I really like that part.
You know, that shopkeeper was ripping Zaha. He was ripping them all off. So they got what they deserved. But I don't know. I don't have much else to add besides everything we've talked about. So, unless Seamus, do you have any thoughts about this volume?
I think it's like you're saying. It felt very like plot heavy, like giving info, setting stuff up, kind of like okay, it's like 4 volumes of madness. All right, now we need to quiet down a bit and like set up like the next round of whatever's going to happen.
Like honestly, yeah. Go ahead.
I'm kind of hoping the flashback stuff kind of in soon enough because I'm like,
yeah,
it's
you
grand,
would.
but it's a bit like, yes, I would. I'm like, what are you doing, Kikō Ishida? Please, no flashbacks.
It's fine. It's fine to have the flashbacks as long as they're like funny. If they're like plot related, I'm kind of like, I don't want this to be like, I don't know, this big heavy thing from his past. Although it probably won't be that dramatic. I don't know. It doesn't feel like Q Haishida's MO, but we'll see, I guess.
I was about to mention the extra chapter, the bonus bone at the end of this volume about Catastrophos. That was like maybe the most enjoyable
Yes.
part of this volume. Yeah, because that was just like a silly, fun adventure with the characters. And then getting a little, like, you know, Sanko learned how to talk to Catastrofo. And the punchline was Catastrofo is, you know, became a poopa. Also, Catastrophos ate Shima to death. No, not Shima to death. Hajime Damamaru.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. What do you say, Morgana? What do you say?
Yeah, I mean, I still enjoy it. I still will read more. But I am also feeling a little bit like this didn't hit quite like the previous volumes for me.
Did Q Haishida change or did we change?
I almost, sometimes I feel like, and maybe I'm projecting a little, but sometimes I feel like Q Hayashida just wants to draw weird, like, heavy metal gore bullshit that's fun, and some editor somewhere is like, okay, but it has to have a plot. And so she writes a plot, and you're kind of like, yeah, the plot's fine, but really we're here for your art and your weirdness, and, like, not this plot at all, really.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe next Twipple Dip we won't include Die Dark and we'll actually do something else. I don't know.
I don't
We'll
know
see.
about that. I don't know about that.
Oh, okay.
There will
But
be
yeah,
fierce iterations off podcasts.
I mean, if we don't have anything else to say about Die Dark Volume 5, we should just move along.
Let's.
Okay. It is then time to talk about our final Twipple Dip selection. Yokohama Kaidashi Kikō by Hitoshi Ashinano. This is a 3-in-1 deluxe edition. Number 3 that we're reading includes the contents of volumes 7, 8, and 9 of Yokohama Kaidashi Kikō, put out by Seven Seas Entertainment. Translation by Daniel Komen. Lettering by Ludwig Sacramento. Cover design Nikki Lim. Yeah, so we return to the world of Alpha. And Morgana, what did you think of this third deluxe edition?
I still don't have any idea what's going on, and I still don't care that I don't have any idea what's going on. I mean, that's not entirely true. I enjoy the atmosphere of this series, and I feel like it's a very 90s manga thing to have, like, vague undertones of something that happened once in the past that kind of runs through as nostalgia through the whole series, but isn't ever, like, explicitly stated. And that's kind of like Alpha's whole history and, like, her owner and all of this stuff. It's like, something happened, and it impacted our main character, but we're just gonna kind of gloss over it, and it's there, and it's like touching every aspect of Alpha's life, but we're not gonna tell you outright anything about it ever. And I'm fine with that. It's a very yeah, it seems like a thing that was very of a time in like manga and anime. But I feel like like the first, and I feel like I'm targeting Dark Fox specifically, but the first couple like the first episode of Trigun, I feel like does that thing at the beginning where it's kind of like Vash's memories. It's the same sense you get that like, oh, something happened in the past and it affects everything, but we're not going to state anything outright. And you're going to wonder what's going on the entire time.
Yep.
It's very much like the whole mood of this series.
And
Is that something that... Oh, go ahead.
Well, and the thing that they allude to is just so different than what the actual contents is. Or like what you're reading in the present tense seems so far removed of whatever that is.
Are you guys talking about like why the world is dying? Like the
Yeah, like there was obviously some kind of, and also just like the robots themselves and like their creation is kind of talked about a little bit, but even that feels like it's talked around. And then you see the other alpha like on like a spaceship, I guess, or something. So there's a lot of implication about like things that have happened in the past and why like we're in a post-apocalyptic world and what these robots are all about, but it's never like nothing feels like it's ever stated outright. And you're just kind of dropped into this world with that kind of, you know, in the background somewhere, and you're just left to kind of wonder about it.
I mean, at least in this Deluxe Edition 3, things happen. Like, a typhoon destroys the cafe.
Yes,
that's very relative though. Like things happen for this manga.
Right. No.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. But even so, cafe is destroyed and Alpha goes on a journey. But even that, like Alpha's journey, we only see little bits and pieces of it, and it's like she's gone for a whole year, and it's resolved in a few chapters. You know what I mean? You don't get everything. You just kind of get the mood, you know. And even like Alpha's decision to go on her journey is also kind of, it feels like she is almost like breaking out of something, you know what I mean? Like she said at the end of that, like this was the first time she ever felt like she was a year older, like she actually aged a year. It's almost like she had been kind of stuck in this nostalgic loop over and over again for years and years and years, and she finally broke out of it and like did something else and came back, and like I don't know, this series is just mood. It's so much mood. This is not a criticism, I want to be clear. Like I'm enjoying this, and it's a very different pace from a lot of the things that we've read and we've been reading. But I also just feel like when I read it, it's not, I don't feel like there's any pressure for me to like keep track of like the plot or like, you know, try to figure out what's going on. Like you just kind of let it happen. It's like an experience. Yokohama Kaidashi Kikō is an experience.
I mean, I totally agree. It's just that, like, with this, like, deluxe edition, these 3 volumes that were covered, kind of, like, it expands a lot because the other 6 volumes, it just stayed there at the, mostly at the cafe. And, she made, you know, we were introduced to all the characters, like, the airplane that's up in the sky as well. But, like, they just expand a lot more with what's happening. Who is that girl with the short hair that's friends with Alpha? The other android? What's her name? Yeah, Kokone. Kokone pulls a gun on somebody?
Yeah.
That fucking happened?
Part of her programming.
Alpha...
It turns out the future is just Florida. It's usually just stand your ground.
During the trip, Alpha sees an airplane and meets another android that's a male android That's
which I popped for that, like, what?
And then
Guy droid.
And then he says something about how the male androids were weaker than the female, and that's why there aren't that many of them. And I feel like that's another one of those things where they just kind of drop it in there for you to like chew over, but never really like expand on it.
I mean, remember the chapter with the weird sea god boulder thing? That was something. So Ashinano likes to introduce strange aspects. Like, why are the chestnuts huge? Why is the persimmon like the size of a bowling ball? It just is.
Is it really just Ariata world? Just like the future of Ariata, like tiny people?
I guess.
I feel like you could feed a whole family on that chestnut. I love the guy like puts up a shield. He's like, you never know, you're gonna explode.
That was great.
But to talk about like more of like what it's setting up, like they've had multiple dream sequences of Alpha flying, and they've implied that maybe that did happen in some sort of, maybe her consciousness was flying, and certain people have sensed that in the real world, not just in the dream world. It's all very wishy-washy and just kind of like vague. Like, we don't know if it actually happened or not. And then when she got on the plane, she got to like connect to like the plane sensors or whatever.
Yes.
She got to like experience that like in a more vivid or like in a less like a waking dream kind of thing. Which kind of feels like it's setting something up or building to something, but I don't know what.
But do you think Ashinano is actually going to answer that, or is it just going to be more like mood, as Morgana says?
I mean, that's the safe bet is that it's just mood.
Even with the end of this volume, where the old doctor reveals that alphas are connected to her family name, Ko Miishi Alpha.
He is special.
All right, while we ponder that, let's turn to Seamus. I'm super interested to hear what Seamus is going to say, Morgana, because in the middle of our Fire Punch retrospective, we were kind of talking about like post-apocalyptic settings and everything, and like, why would you want to even live in such a horrible world? And I was like, well, what about Yokohama Kaidashi Kikō? And Seamus hinted that he had some new thoughts about this series. So Seamus, take it away. I want to hear what those thoughts were.
I guess these are not so new thoughts. I think I don't know. I can't remember. Did we say it last time we were talking about it? But I mentioned, what was it? Was it only yesterday?
Yes.
And then I was talking about it some more with some other people, which I think part of that too is that they were like praising it so much, and there's a part of me when I like hear something get praised so much, I'm like, all right, like nothing's perfect here. And
all right, hipster.
Like, first of all, that's not a hipster thing. That's like an appreciation of art beyond just like, I don't know, being a fucking weird fan. That like optimism like is a terrible thing for a reason, as was rockism in its day. Activism, whatever it was called. I don't know. I'll point out The Wire. I remember years ago, like I was like, surely there's like people writing like critiques of The Wire years ago, and there wasn't really all that much. A lot of people just wanking over it.
Everybody get out your bingo cards. We mentioned The Wire.
There was one good one actually. That was someone being like, you know, well, that was mostly just on the scope of The Wire and like what it showed and didn't show the rest of Baltimore. Which I feel like the amount of people whose only knowledge of Baltimore is like The Wire was probably like fairly on the ball.
That makes sense.
But this is not about The Wire. Actually, these thoughts aren't new because someone like linked me to like a thing from 2009. What was it? The Hooded Utilitarian. There was a whole thing. I don't know. People were reading Scandals back in 2009, and there was a whole discussion around it. But they kind of more or less nailed what I was thinking at the time when I was thinking of Only Yesterday. Because I remember like someone pointing out like Only Yesterday is like a very kind of like reactionary fiction in the sense of it's like, oh, we just got to go back to this like simpler time when everything was better. And like Yokohama Kaidashi Kikō does that, where it's like we're just using the apocalypse to get to that. It's like, you know, we're just going to get rid of like urbanism and modernity and like foreigners and basically everything that in a weird way, I feel like what was the Tezuka manga? Ayako.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ayako.
That
Like-
fucking manga.
Like that manga has a more like clear-eyed view of what rural Japan was like than this manga does. Like because this manga is a fantasy, and like Tezuka, I don't know, like and it was exaggerated in some ways, but in other ways he was like, no, like I actually know what it was like back then. Like I'm basing this in historical aspects. Like this guy is just clearly just doing a fantasy of like, oh, the pastoral, because like that's the thing with like a lot of pastoral stuff is, you know, you dig down a bit and you're like, this is all pretty. There is like a rejection of like a lot of modern things, and like to go back to this like simpler living time. It's like, yeah, there's a whole lot of shit associated with that like, you know, you don't have in this manga, or they kind of ignore because like, you know, you don't want to talk about that. But that's like this. It's like this. Oh, nice gentle apocalypse, everything's grand, and it's like, you know, well, like there's so few people. What, they all died? Japan just seems to be like there's no one. They don't seem to have any interaction with the rest of the world. In fact, there was one part of it. I must try and find it. Someone was actually looking at like Google Maps of Japan at the time. Well, I don't know, at the time the manga was written, or like relatively recently, versus like Yokohama, and kind of detailing out like how like Yokohama is like the second biggest city in Japan, and like that whole area is incredibly built up, and you know there's not a whole lot of nature there. Much a rejection of all that as well. Yeah, no, I think they're actually on the ball with this.
All right, Seamus. I'm trying to like take all that in.
It's really fascinating, like the idea that it's a rejection of modernity and the like characters are all major new technology, and it's almost like maybe the creation of this technology led to something bad. They don't say that outright, but like this is just me thinking out loud.
I don't know, is like the androids have anything to do with it? Because actually, there is someone else that was like rooting through this trade. Someone, I think, one of the people who was reading it was pointing out how like Alpha's like this kind of like idealized like female fantasy character, not in like a sexualized aspect, but in it's like, oh, she's just, you know, also innocent and happy and cheery and like
Dedicated.
yes, dedicated.
And everybody loves her.
Exactly. Like she's never angry or, you know, like that. Well, that's the one thing with this manga in general. It's all very like positive. Because that was the thing. People were all like, "Oh, it's so nice," versus all this other stuff. Because like, I kind of got into, oh, it's like, you know, accepting to the world, and I'm like, yeah, but there's a whole critique in Japan and of certain aspects of Japanese society and culture based around like, oh, acceptance of things. Because then that's how you end up with like, you know, the like fascist government of the 30s. It's like, oh, we just got to accept it and go with the flow, and like, you know, it's better an honorable death than like to live on as like a rebel and try and like do something about it.
Damn, these are deep cuts.
That stuff, I don't know, like that only came into me just because I can't even remember where I was reading about that. I think it was more just stuff like this stuff was stuff that was written like within Japan that I don't know how I came across it, or like references to it. But it's all to do with like the perception of like suicide in Japan. A lot of it is tied kind of back to that period of like the Meiji Reformation, kind of up to the 30s, and like what like, you know, it was like seen as like an honorable thing to just go off and die for the emperor. And then, like post World War II, like a lot of that, like resistance, and because all that resistance was like very much tied up with the Communist Party, so that was all very much like swept under the rug. And this whole thing of, oh, we just got to accept things as they are, and you know, not try and rock the boat. That fitted very well with like the government at the time they came into power, and the U.S. occupation forces was very much like, all right, we need to get like Japan nice and calm, we need to get the communists, make sure they're out of control, and oh, we got a war in Korea, so like we're going to focus on that. So you know, let's just, you know, not have too much happen in Japan. We don't have that much change. They kept the emperor for a reason.
Wow.
Would you call this manga toxic positivity?
I think like that is I don't know, it's a toxic positivity, but there is like a
Kind of insidious.
There is a thing as such. I mean, people say toxic positivity to you know, to this. It is a thing. Like people who say everything's gonna be okay, you know, or like, or don't worry, be happy, or don't be sad, be happy. Like, well, some people have depression. You know, like some people, it can't just be happy. Like,
Sometimes it's not going to be okay, buddy.
Positivity is a thing in the current kind of like landscape of, I guess you could say, influencers or famous people, and just like,
I think the difference there, though, like, well, I don't know. It applies and it both doesn't apply. It applies in like the world is constructed like this. I don't know. Then you're kind of getting like, is it what they're trying to take away? Because like, I don't know, wasn't this whole manga like aimed at like salarymen in the 90s to like read on their way to work? But like, it's just very much like, hey, this job where maybe there is conflict and like all this other stuff that like you can't really do anything about. Well, read this nice piece of manga about this like cute android just traveling around Japan and look at the pretty pictures.
Look at the cute girls. Look at these androids that kiss each other to exchange information. Everyone's nice.
Because like they mention, one of the blog posts mentioned some other manga that, as far as I can tell, has never been translated. But they were like, their comparison was that like that other manga dealt with this kind of like tension between like the rural past / modern urban. Like it addressed it in a way where like, this manga is constructed in such a way that like urban existence doesn't happen anymore for like reason, because like, apocalypse stuff that's unstated in the background.
Everything Seamus has said makes total sense.
I know, it's a little upsetting.
Yes, it's upsetting because like I was more like with Morgana and just reading this book and thinking, oh, this is a nice mood. This is a nice thing, Things happened to Alpha, like the cafe being destroyed, but she just went on a journey and then she came back, and Takahiko, or that boy, is now taller than she is, so time continues to pass while she is the same.
Didn't have to worry about an insurance claim.
This is all very true.
I don't know, like this is like I would say I still like the manga, like but I am just like, oh yeah, there is that aspect to it. But I don't know, like I just there's no end of stuff I could probably be like there's so much. I don't know, like the Shield, like I don't know, well, bingo card dish, like the Shield is a very reactionary show. Well, I don't know, reactionary or conservative, it kind of depends on definition there. It's very easy to like see a certain like conservative idea of like the world and how it works in the Shield in terms of like you can't really change things, it's just trying to manage it as well as possible. George the Wire has this very positive view of like, oh well, change is possible. It's just the right people and like the right system. This is getting into like arguments on message board that happened like 10 years ago. But then again, to be fair, like all this stuff half the stuff I'm bringing up like came from like reading stuff from 2009 on like comments in a forum, or comments on like a blog. I guess this was like a thing back in the day, like people were reading scans in like the part of the internet where people were like interested in manga. It's funny to read of it because some of these people are like, this is like my second or third manga and I have no real concept of like manga as a whole. So some of their stuff is a bit like, okay, you've clearly not read a lot of manga.
I can only imagine.
But I very much like the chapter where she lost her camera and had to go find it. There.
She almost lost it forever.
An actual conflict. Shocking. She looked so sad. I was so upset for a minute. I was like, oh no. Is this something about like how everything is ephemeral? Because I don't really want that in this, like...
Mono no aore. They do say that about this manga.
Right, yeah.
The transient nature of things.
It will be gone.
I mean...
It's not quite gone yet, but it will be gone.
But also, like, in this world, you have weird plants that look like street lamps that light up.
Right?
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out, like, what that was about. I think it was mood.
More mood.
Just because we can.
But now, along with the mood, Morgana, we also have to think about, like, what this manga represents and the deeper meaning behind it all. Oh, boy.
Well, I mean, you can always like have a take on something. You could always, have a reading of a story. Sometimes stories are way more explicit and harmful. I'm not comparing this manga at all to Songs of the South, but Song of the South, the content of that movie is completely non-racist. Well, actually, I've actually never seen the movie myself, so that's a very blanket statement. But from my understanding, that movie is basically just like a kids movie, and they have songs, and there's a nice black man living on a plantation. But the subtext of that movie is that there's a black man happily living on a plantation as if slavery is not an issue, right? That's what that's a big reason why that movie is considered racist. So like something can be very kind of toothless and inviting and endearing, and then have this other context surrounding it, right? It's entirely possible that the context of what this manga was written during the time it was written was, as Seamus described, like the rejection of modernity, and maybe even like Japan better as pure and without foreigners. Like you could draw it that far. But it's kind of difficult to expect an average reader to make that reading. I think that requires a fair bit of context. A lot of the context is in here. A lot of the context of like the fact that it's a peaceful apocalypse and stuff like that. It raises these questions, and it makes you think about like, well, like if it, are things better how it used to be, blah blah blah. But I guess what I'm saying is that like I think we should be careful to try and make like a super strong concrete judgment of this manga, besides just like this is a possible reading of it. And I know Seamus isn't trying to put a stamp on it or anything like that. Like
no, Dar. What I'm saying is, anybody who reads this manga and likes this manga, you're a fascist.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, no!
Yeah, exactly.
Oh no!
Do you know who else thought about revitalizing the rural? Hitler.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Well, that was a stated claim. Like he the whole thing about like he wanted to go back to like the strong, independent farmer. I feel like Thomas Jefferson in the U.S.
Another notable fascist.
Yeah.
Incidentally, Darfox, that podcast I mentioned earlier, You Must Remember This, did a whole season on Song of the South.
Wow, really?
Why it's racist as fuck.
Yeah.
And also the history behind the production, and like Disney's, like why Disney has pulled it from everything. Very interesting.
I recall reading that the actor who played that black man on that plantation was not invited to the premiere. So it's like, it's like pretending like the movie and everything surrounding the movie was like purely innocent and non-racist. It's clearly not. It was a very racist time and production and company.
It's a good podcast. I haven't listened to it in a while, but if you are interested in like history, it's specifically like Hollywood history, but it is fascinating because you have to have the context. They give you some context of like, politics at the time or whatever. I will warn you, there is a season on Charles Manson, and I had to stop listening to the podcast for a while after that because it was heavy. Speaking of cults,
right?
Yeah. Talking about earlier,
it was a very good. I think that was around the time I stopped listening to it, but yeah, because they do a lot of stuff like Hollywood at the time and movies and.
She's the woman who runs it, Katrina Longworth. She's I think married now to Ryan Johnson. I remember they were dating at
the director.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Oh, interesting.
Yep, it's his wife. Mm-hmm. She also wrote a book on Howard Hughes. It's very good. But anyway, totally off topic. Nothing to do with Yokohama Kaidashi Kikō.
I don't know where to go.
You're like flabbergasted.
Oh, I will say, Seamus teased us with his future critique of this manga, and I thought
it did not disappoint.
No. I mean, I thought the critique was enlightening, and it's like, yeah, that totally makes sense, as opposed to just like, I was like, if Seamus gonna come in and be like, yeah, This manga's garbage. No, and I'm just like 180 on it. So like, it's a good combo.
I mean, I think another takeaway here is nothing is created in a vacuum.
Yes.
Right? Like, and I know, and we've talked about this before, you want to separate the art from the artist, this, and that, but it's really hard to separate something from the cultural context in which it was created. This, case in point, Song of the South, like you mentioned, it's even if you try to strip away, like, the aspects of it that make it an issue, it is, creators are not immune to influence. None of us are immune to influence as much as
we're not immune to propaganda.
Exactly. I like to think I'm pretty good at not being, swayed by advertising or swayed by propaganda. It's not true. There are absolutely things that affect me on the level that I don't really even realize. So nothing is created in a vacuum. No media is perfect. There's problems with everything. It's like I was talking about earlier with, Bela Lugosi and Rod Serling. Everybody's got their skeletons in the closet, and every manga is the same. Full of skeletons. Sometimes literally. Side arc.
Sometimes just more skeleton than bones.
The thing is, I'm looking under Hitoshi Ashinano's other works. There's another manga about living in the boonies. And flying a plane around.
They've been hanging out with Hayao Miyazaki.
There's another manga about a woman that rides her moped at night and sees weird supernatural phenomena, maybe ghosts.
Oh, that sounds fun.
It does sound fun.
Yeah, it's another manga here called "O Emperor, Where Art Thou?" What's up with this one? I'm kidding.
In the chat, Lightning Bolt says that y'all are watching wrestling and wants to know how I feel knowing that you're all watching TV right now.
Okay.
I assume you're always doing something. I was crocheting.
Yeah.
Not that long ago. I am now nursing a baby again.
Yeah. It's okay. I have multiple monitors. I have my tabs open. We're sticking with our recording, and I'm managing the discussion. I feel like.
Yeah, as long as multitasking is a very valuable skill.
I'm casually paying attention to the wrestling that's happening right now. I think that's fine. Don't try to throw us under the bus, Lightning Bolt.
I got hella shit going on. I'm gonna try and take a picture, and I'm gonna try and even put it up on the stream.
I can only imagine how much stuff you got because you're doing the stream and you keep showing us. You're putting pages up on the screen, and you got all kinds of. I don't know. I don't know what goes into live streaming because I'm actually somewhat technologically challenged, believe it or not.
I do not believe it.
Can't believe it.
We're all fine here. But yeah, for Yokohama Kaidashi Kikō Deluxe Edition Volume 3, I don't know what else to mention anymore.
I'm curious, how much is left of this series? I almost feel like we've reached kind of a peak and it's going to end soon, but it's not like there's a plot. So, I mean,
we are over halfway because there's 14 volumes total.
Okay, that's a lot more than I thought there would be. Okay.
Over halfway.
So, Early Deluxe Edition is a 3?
Yeah.
This is the 3rd Deluxe Edition, so there should be 2 more.
All right, on stream, you have a screenshot of my entire, and my stream actually took a dive and is being flaring right now, so I'm sorry. But I have the YouTube chat top left. Underneath that is the wrestling. Darby Allin is fighting Christian. I have the manga pulled up, and on top of the manga, I have the stream preview. So it's closer. This is my main monitor right in front of me. And then on my right side of the monitor, I have Discord in case Doctor sends me anything that he wants on the screen. And underneath that is the stream analytics, where there I can see. You see that red square in the bottom right? That means that I'm dropping frames. But I'm back. I'm good now.
Yep.
I dropped a few dozen frames, so
it's all there. You should put that away.
Why?
Because I think that you're killing the stream while doing this.
No.
Lightning Ball is like, did the stream just die?
No, the stream was dying beforehand. The stream was dying.
Okay.
I'll put it. When you say you should put that away, like, oh my god, did I accidentally leave off the racist emo I wrote? Oh my, what did I leave? No.
All your porn is on the screen.
So much feet, Dar.
Hey now, don't put me in the league of Dong Zhou.
I'm not king shaming.
Dong Zhou, when he was watching Doa-chan, like the camera specifically cut to Doa-chan's feet, and I was like, that's kind of weird, but yeah. I mean, Dong Zhou was probably a feet guy.
Did they have like some poem about her? Was that the song?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they did.
It was a song, yeah.
Okay. Anything anyone else wants to mention about this Deluxe Edition 3 of Yokohama Kaidashi Kikō?
I feel like it's far more sinister now than I did when we started this conversation.
I was thinking, I said, this is going to be like a repeat of when we did that Redux and Silent Voice, and I just came in being like, all right, here's me going monologuing for 5 minutes on like what I was thinking about off like some random comments I half read that someone made on YouTube. That got me thinking, oh yeah, I need to actually think some more about this in the thought.
I mean, there are good points.
I still like it.
It's a nice book. Interesting stuff in it.
I think we're still gonna finish this. Like we will definitely keep reading this for sure, and maybe have a dedicated episode to.
I nearly feel as a deluxe edition, it's kind of, I wouldn't say worse. I kind of do think it would nearly read better, more spaced out, because it is so plotless in a way.
I read this thing so fast.
Yeah, pretty fast.
Yeah. I was actually, I've been crocheting while I read too. Crochet while I do everything. And it did go by pretty fast, even though it's like, 488 pages or something ridiculous. But they do go by pretty quick.
Yeah, I easily read this entire thing in under an hour, for sure.
Well, I think, Morgana, what you said there about that chapter where like she feels conflict. Well, there was conflict. But I was thinking, there's not really, I guess, a conflict with someone else, but there is like a heightened emotion that is negative, that is quite rare in this manga.
Yep. Yeah, I feel like there's mild disappointment. Like even when her like cafe is destroyed, we don't see her crying. She says she cried, but we just get like mild disappointment. We see her, she's playing her moon guitar like nothing happened.
I think it was more shocking when Coconut pulled the gun on the other girl.
Major conflict.
Well, what did you call that last time, Morgana, where they like have to kiss to exchange information, but you had a word for like that, like faux lesbianism. What was it called? Or what did you had some phrase?
I don't remember now. Pseudo lesbianism. I don't know. I can't think of it now. Not technically gay, but basically gay. My favorite phrase.
I feel like we are kind of running out of gas at this point. We've also been going very long. I just looked at the timer. We're about to hit an hour and a half. Oh, we hit an hour and a half. Great. It won't be that case on like when you hear this in audio form because I'll take out a lot of the silences. But
same with the video. Stream has been up for 2 hours and 52 minutes, but
Yep.
I snipped the beginnings and the ends, so it shrinks it a little bit, and the middle.
yeah, but I think we're all running out of gas, and we should just basically wrap up at this point. I think we all confirmed that we're still all gonna read this, so we have that. Should we bother picking our favorite out of the three?
You know what's funny? Last time we did this, I was mad because I didn't want to pick. I felt like they were all pretty equal. This time, I feel like I could actually rank.
Oh, go ahead, Morgana.
Yeah, I think Chainsaw Man first this time. Like it's the most. Yeah, I just feel like it's the one I'm most. And let me be clear, I'm still enjoying all of these very much, and I still want to read all of them, and I don't. I'm ranking them, but it's not like they're far apart, right? You know. But that was the one that like I felt like the most happened and the most I was invested in, you know, and that also read very quick. So Chainsaw Man first, and then in second and third I have a little bit more of a hard time because I do feel like I was more disappointed by Die Dark this time. I think in general I am more invested in it story wise than Yokohama, but it didn't do much for me this time, and I don't know. So maybe I could just say Chainsaw Man was the best of the three this time around. I can't necessarily rank them 1, 2, and 3. You know.
Okay.
I got a ranking.
Okay, go ahead, Dar.
All right. Yokohama is like eating porridge. It's like it's fine. It's substance. Die Dark is like getting chicken nuggets and putting it in like a burrito. It's like
What?
This is all good stuff, but it's just so weird. And it doesn't really fit together. The texture might be weird of fighting chicken nuggets when you're eating a burrito. So that's second place. Because I like all the ingredients. It's kind of wild. Now Chainsaw Man, now that's a fucking meal. Like that has they cooked with Chainsaw Man. It has like it has good ingredients, better pizza, and like just a full meal. And so it feels way more complete than the other ones. So Chainsaw Man on one.
Falling Devil would be very pleased with your metaphor, and also very pleased that Chainsaw Man ranked top this time. Top Chef. Incidentally, we've been watching these. Have you seen them on YouTube? It's the Epicurious YouTube channel. It's pro chef versus home cook, where this like pro chef and home cook swap recipes. It's fascinating. We watched one where the pro chef was like, "Here, make this $1,400 fettuccine alfredo using a giant wheel of Parmesan." So yeah.
I think I've seen that, but it might be a different channel. I've seen like the same meal cooked from a home cook and a professional chef and a novice. It's like three of them. Is that different?
Oh, I think that's different. Yeah, and this one they swap recipes. So the professional chef takes the home cook's recipe, and the home cook gets the professional chef's recipe. And
and all like the super good ingredients.
Yeah, and they're like super.
This sounds great.
It's pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty fun. So Epicurious is the channel we've been watching. Yeah, Dakazu, I think you'd really enjoy it. Actually,
I love food. All right. Seamus, you have a ranking for these three?
Probably do Chainsaw Man is the one of the three I prefer the most. Be as about as much ranking as I give you.
So similar to Morgana. You know, we're like-minded here on this podcast. I'm with you three. It's gonna be Chainsaw Man at the top. At least out of these three volumes or deluxe editions, whatever we read. I'm not gonna rank between Die Dark and Yokohama. And there you go. So we will. I think we need to end. My brain is starting to not function. I'm surprised Morgana lasted this long. Your first episode back, and
I had caffeine like around 4 p.m., which is much later than I usually do. I'm like awake.
MVP Morgana.
I also don't currently have a day job, so or like do any work. I just have to feed babies all day.
Your work is feeding the baby.
Well, I think I'm going through my Red Bull crash, and so that's probably what's happening. So let me end this podcast before I crash further. Thank you so much for Darfox, Morgana, and Seamus for being on this week. If you enjoyed our podcast, make sure to subscribe to us and review us, rate us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever else you can find us. Reminder that next week we will be reading River's Edge by Kyoko Okazaki. Stay tuned for that. If you want to support our podcast, buy us a coffee. ko-fi.com/mangamac. Check out our websites, Manga Machinations at mangamachinations.com, and also on Tumblr, mangamachinations.tumblr.com. Send us emails, mangamachinations@gmail.com. You can follow us on social media. Our Twitter is @MangaMacPodcast. That's a Manga MAC podcast. That's also our threads. We also have an Instagram. And Dar, what is our Blue Sky? We have a Blue Sky.
Yeah, it's a mangamacpodcast.bsky.social.
I need to learn this.
Oh yeah. Oh, sorry, I didn't push to talk that. So the stream will hear it twice. That's at mangamacpodcast.bsky.social. I'm not sure if they require that whole tag, or if just searching Manga Mac Podcast is enough.
Okay, so basically the same as like our other social media stuff. Very nice. Join our Discord server. Come play Mahjong with us on Mondays and other days. Come talk to us. It's also a good way to interact and ask us questions. We have an introduction thread now, or if you want to introduce yourself, you can do that there. Discord.me/mangamac. And make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/mangamactv. It's where we do our live recordings of this podcast. Hopefully we'll have some new videos up soon as well. And you can follow my personal Twitter @DocZoo, follow Darfox @Darfox8, follow Morgana @MorganaRelina, and follow Seamus @Seamus2389. Seamus is spelled without an H. Alright everyone, thank you so much for listening to us this week. Bye bye.
Peace everybody.